Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Valhelsia 2. We're in episode 5 today, and we're doing more creating with the Create mod. That's right. First up, we're going to do a very compact cobblegen because we need some cobble in order to extend our base. Then we're going to do some base remodeling. Not only will we use some of that cobble turned into stone, but we'll also use a lot of the blocks that are provided by the Create mod. They have a great selection of really cool stuff we can build with. But first up, let's get started by making a cobblegen. Here we are in the fascinating inner workings of our tiny Create room. That's right. I have gone ahead and cleared out the space that we're going to use to make the cobblegen. And we are going to first have some fun with gears. So we're going to take the power from that water wheel and run it down underneath the ground just to hide them. And put our cobblegen right here, and it's going to produce cobble that's going to drop into a hopper and then into a chest. So the first thing we need to do is get this spinning gear to turn the corner, and we're going to do that using a vertical gearbox. So you'll notice if I get down below it, you can see there's a gear underneath, and we're going to use shafts to do that. I'm actually going to come around underneath and bring it down to the ground. We're going to do the same thing, use another vertical gearbox to transpose that motion from the top out the side, also with more shafts. This time we're going to use a regular gearbox because we're not having to change vertical height. We're just like going around a corner. Also, more shafts. You can see a pattern here, right? Another vertical shaft to go up. And then we're going to use another vertical gearbox here because the item we're going to use to make a cobblegen is called a mechanical drill. And if we put that on the front of this, you'll see that it starts to spin. And if you put any block in front of it, it mines it. So if we can make cobblestone appear here using water and lava, then we have an automated cobblegen. I'm going to close up the hole underneath. And the first thing we're going to do is set down a chest and then put a hopper into this. Credit to Chosen Architect for his recent Valhelsia 2 series, which is where I got the actual idea for the cobblegen. So what we're going to need is a waterlogged stair. And we're going to do that by putting signs on two sides of it to hold the water in. And one of the cool things about a waterlogged stair is that water actually goes down from it if you waterlog it. So we're going to put a couple of trapdoors here to hold back both the water that's coming from the waterlogged stair and the lava. Our lava is going to go right here on the end of the chest. Don't worry, it will not burn up the chest. And we're just going to use an upside down stair on the end of this so we can still access the chest while placing the lava next to it. So let's place our water first in the stair and then place our lava on top of the chest. And we should get cobble. And slowly that cobblestone gets broken and falls into the chest. Is this super slow? Yes. But will it just keep making cobblestone for us while we do other things around the base? Also, yes. Okay. That's it for our cobblegen. Now let's do a little bit of building remodeling. And this is our remodeling project. These are the additions we've planned to add to our fort. And what I'm going to do is break this down into 3 phases. I'm going to replace that framework behind me with some andesite stone brick because they're the closest thing we have to stone bricks. Then we're going to fill everything in, creating the shape of the build, like adding the walls. Then we're going to change the shape of some of those walls and add a significant amount of detail to make it look more interesting. So first up, let's change the framework to the andesite stone brick. Ta-da! This is the framework now done in the andesite brick. I've also taken the time to clear out the old wall. I've also leveled the courtyard area. The next step is to fill in all these walls with a combination of andesite bricks that we've used so far and the other materials that I've chosen for the project. And they include materials that come from the Create mod. So let's take a look. Mossy limestone, mossy weathered limestone, overgrown weathered limestone, mossy andesite. The best part of these blocks is you can make them all by just chucking the base material in the stonecutter tool. If we stick weathered limestone in here, there are all the variations, including the overgrown and the mossy and columns and all kinds of cool stuff. So we are going to make very good use of the materials available to us from the Create mod. Let's get to filling in the walls. I thought it would be a good idea to come back and do one of these walls together so I can kind of explain the building process to you. So I'm using this combination of andesite bricks and weathered limestone bricks along with the stairs and a little bit of plain weathered limestone. And what I'm going to do, since most of our build is in andesite and stone, I'm going to pretend I'm drawing veins with the weathered limestone. So we're just kind of putting blocks in a random pattern like that. And then I'm going to fill the rest in with the andesite. And that gives us a nice texture. We're almost done. Now I want to use this weathered limestone to kind of add pieces where it looks like the stone is old enough that it's worn away a little bit, even though this is a quote-unquote modern addition to our build. Now then, the final thing I'm going to do is cut windows into this. And I know that I want my windows bordered on the outside by at least 2 bricks. So I'm actually going to just cut them in here and then count in 2 and cut it in here. So this section will only have 2 windows. I'm making them extra tall because on the perceived outside of the window, I'm actually going to put staircases to help add some depth to those window frames. I've done it on the front of the build for this side, and you can see how this pseudo pattern has kind of repeated over time. So let me finish up the rest of these walls and the towers, and we'll come back and do the detailing. And phase 2 is done. Now we have our walls filled in and windows cut out on the extension to our fort behind us. And you may be thinking to yourself, that's great, Winnie. It's now a giant gray box. And that's where detailing is going to transform this from a giant gray box into a beautiful and slightly more modern addition to our new home. The next part of the transformation involves changing the silhouette of the building, that is its shape without moving walls. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. And then we're going to change the color, the contrast, and the texture of each of our walls, particularly around the window. So let's start with the building's silhouette. We are going to add one of the blocks from decorative blocks called dark oak supports. And I'm just going to put these everywhere except the corners, and they're going on the block above the window. So the second highest block, and we're going to do this all the way around this rectangle. And then we are basically going to move this lip of the building out to that edge. So now we've added this lip. What we want to do is actually bring blocks out on this edge. And we're going to start with our basic andesite bricks. Remember, that's our primary building block. And I'm just going to put them in the corners of this new edge, like so. So we've put our andesite bricks on the ends of our dark oak supports, and in between them, we're going to put upside down stairs so that we can still see a little bit of the oak supports when we come away. So there's a little bit more color here. And we're going to do this around the whole build. Now that we have the lip of the building coming out another block, we also want to emphasize this curve by changing the silhouette in the corners. And we're going to do that by using our weathered limestone brick wall in a darker color that's going to add shadow. And then on each of the edges where our dark oak support are, we're going to bring a stair out. So we're going to do that on our other corner as well. Going to remove these 2 andesite bricks, replace them with the limestone walls, and then put andesite stairs facing into each other on the corners. So I've removed some of the scaffolding from the edge of the building to make it easier to see how we have now changed the silhouette of the building. The top edge sticks out more and kind of curves in at the corners. So we're using the contrast of a light and a dark color to emphasize the fact that the corners are kind of tucked in as compared to the edges. Now let's go add another row of balustrades along the top. Instead of our plain brick squares we were using as kind of a guidance, this time we're going to use walls in a pattern to add even more visual interest. We just want to add something a little more interesting than our plain boring square block. Now in the corners, we're going to do something a little different. We still have this empty space here. I've made basalt large bricks from Embellish Craft, and we're going to stick them there. We're adding to this sense of shadow, right? When you're looking up at the building by using a dark block there. So we're going to use these in all the corners. Now in this corner, we're running into our existing fort structure, and we're going to mimic the roof style here, but we're going to bulk up the support system for the pillars in our own way. Now that we have our support structure in place, I'm going to go craft a whole bunch of campfires, and we're going to put them across the top as our roof. And I think that does it for our campfire roof. Just collecting the last of those. So what I've done is mimic the use of campfires as the roof, but in our corners, we're sticking them out one extra. So let's go see what that looks like from down here. I've pulled down the scaffolding so that we can see this better. There is the new rooftop for our extension, and you can see that we've completely changed the silhouette of the top of the building. Now we're going to work on the lower half of the building, and this time we're going to focus on color, contrast, and texture, and we're going to start around the windows. So I've taken away the blocks that were dividing our windows, and we're going to replace them with a combination of limestone and mossy limestone with just a few blocks that have the moss on them. So we're basically making the window dividers white to add some color contrast in the build. We're going to extend this moss theme by replacing a couple of the adjoining blocks with variations of the moss bricks from Create. So mossy andesite and mossy weathered limestone, because things that grow tend to spread in the same pattern. So now we have color contrast on our windows with the white limestone bricks versus our weather limestone and the regular andesite. The next thing we want to do is put actual windows in the window holes. To do that, we're going to use windows from Valhelsia structures. And in fact, we're going to use the metal framed glass panes from Valhelsia structures. So for this tower, we have changed the silhouette by adding the lip and the new balustrades, changed the texture by extending the roof. We've also kind of married it to the old structure by making sure that our roof structure matches the use of the campfires to cover the open areas of the building. So now we have a section of the building that is much more interesting to look at than the boring andesite bricks. So I'm going to get busy making these same changes to the rest of our building renovation, and I'll bring you back to show you the final result. Ta-da! Our renovation transformation is complete. I have applied all the things we talked about in terms of changing the silhouette, the color, the texture, and the contrast to the rest of the building. So let's take a look at what we've accomplished. It's time for a tour. From the inside of the courtyard, we can see that we have done the color contrast and the texture on all sides. So we now have two towers with spaces in them. I have used the dark oak beams from Druidcraft for a couple of the floor levels. And then the stairs are dark oak suspended stairs from Embellish Craft. I really, really like them and the way it improves the look of the build. Of course, I've made more of these braziers from the Valhelsia Structures mod. And then we have our walkthrough through the tower. The trapdoors here are made of dead wood. That's from Biomes of Plenty, and we got that right over there in that silky glade. And I think it makes a perfect addition to the kind of gray color palette for our building. This is the tower we will build the portcullis in on the next episode. And then here is the other new space. We've connected it to the existing ruin so we can still get around through our old spaces. And I've also, again, used the stairs from Embellish Craft in here as well as the beams from Druidcraft. All in all, I'm very excited about having this space to move into so that we can set up even more mods in the Valhelsia 2 pack. I think we've done a pretty great job. I'm very pleased with how this has turned out. In the next episode, we'll take the time to move our materials into the new space and work on a storage solution, as well as maybe setting up some farms. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like. It helps me out and I appreciate it. If you'd like to keep up with what's going on the channel, don't hesitate to subscribe. And remember, as always, you are the shiny stuff that awesome is made of. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.